Apple thinning is almost always necessary when the desired outcome is good-sized, high-quality fruit. I want to show you some of the best methods to know how much fruit to take off and key things to look out for. So let's get started. The primary purpose of the tree growing fruit is actually for reproduction, hence the seeds inside. The outer part of the apple actually acts like a food source for the seeds once it falls to the ground, in hopes that the seeds will actually germinate or grow into a new apple tree, and thus the cycle continues. Now for this reason, the tree will almost always produce a large amount of flowers to maximize its production. If these flowers all get pollinated by bees or other methods, there will be way too many pieces of fruit on the tree. Now your job is to thin them out to the correct number so that the apples at harvest time are not too small and not too large, but just right. Now, measured spaces between fruit and also the total number of fruit per tree are two great ways to know how to get the thinning close to where it needs to be. Now, the general rule of thumb for apple spacing is approximately 5 to 8 inches apart, or 13 to 20 centimeters. Now, even though the fruit may look like it's spaced apart reasonably now, you have to remember that it will grow a huge amount in size before harvest. Now, I usually try to visualize or imagine all of the fruit on the tree as if they were full size, probably at least as big as your fist. Then you will realize that the apples will need much more space than it appears that they need now. As far as apple counting, often on high-density plantings of apples, the grower will know approximately how many apples that he or she can leave on the tree to produce the desired size and crop load. Now on this 2 by 10 foot spacing, which is approximately 60 centimeters by 3 meters and about 12 feet high, I aim for around 80 pieces of fruit on each tree. Now to make it even easier, I often will divide by the number of spaces between the wires. So with 6 spaces and wanting 80 pieces of fruit on the whole tree, I'll need approximately 13 apples per space or segment. There are many other factors that contribute to how many apples you should or should not take off a tree, but hopefully your orchard manager should be able to let you know when to thin more or less off. But here is a quick list of factors. Weak trees need more fruit taken off than strong, healthy ones. Now often, at the tops of trees, the main leader or branch of the tree will not be able to support as many apples as we spoke about earlier. If there are too many pieces of fruit at the top of the tree will sometimes bend over and even break off in some cases. So have a discussion with your orchard manager about how many apples can be left at the tops of trees, especially if they're young trees with small trunks. Now of course, soil type, rootstock, watering regimes, and many other factors can contribute to size. And you'll gain knowledge, of course, with experience and also by asking other people. You will almost always be asked to space out the fruit and only leave single pieces of fruit. But in some rare cases, exceptions may be made where the amount of apples that naturally set on the tree is not enough. Now in this case, you may be asked to leave groups of 2 together in certain spots. Now this is called doubles. After spacing and crop load management is understood, one of the most common questions is, how do I know what fruit to remove when I have a choice? If you do have a choice, it is best to remove the fruit that is smaller than the other fruit nearby, and also the fruit that has visible damage. Now one type of damage to look out for is insect or bug damage. The most common types of insect damage are aphids, campyloma, thrips, and stink bugs. But you don't need to be able to identify each insect. The main thing is to remember that damage on the fruit now almost always shows up at harvest and can often make the fruit unable to sell. So if there is good fruit on the tree nearby, take off the bad stuff and get rid of it now. Now other damaged fruit can be caused by mildew, scab, or a fire blight. And by the way, if you see mildew on the leaves in certain spots, break off the branch with those affected leaves and throw it down on the orchard floor. If you see fire blight on the leaves or fruit, let your orchard manager know right away, as fire blight can kill all of the trees if it's left in the orchard block and not removed properly. One other thing to note is that if you see any trees in the orchard that have a whole bunch of really small apples compared to all the other trees, they are probably crab apples, which are used for a pollen source during blossom time. Now in most cases, you don't need to thin these trees. In the next video, I'll show you how to actually remove the fruit properly from the tree, and also give you other tips and tricks to be as fast as possible. Check it out.